Hey everyone, this is Matt from GamesRadar, and with me today is our resident wrestling expert, Mr. Ben Wilson.
Hello everyone, how you doing?
And today we are going to review WWE 2K17. Now, let's go straight into it, Ben, because you've got quite a lot to cover here. I think you know there's quite a lot of stuff worth talking about. To narrow it down to sort of 2 or 3 standout features, what really stands out to you?
For me, it's Universe Mode, and this is a mode that I've played for the last 6 or 7 years, really, since it was introduced in WWE 11. So you are a general manager, basically. You create your own shows, you create your own feuds, you create your own matchups. Everything is completely up to you, and it's always been that way. But the things I like this year are the customization elements within that mode. So in addition to doing all the things I've mentioned, you can drill really down deep into things like the show intros. So for the first time, you get that element of watching WWE where there's an introductory video package soundtracked by normally like a sort of grungy or rocky tune. You can choose the video package, you can choose the tune, you can do crazy things like I've got a show on WWE 2K17 Universe Mode now, which is a WWE Live 91 sort of video entrance soundtracked by the Big Boss Man's Hard Times theme tune, which is probably my favourite wrestling theme tune of all time. It's really cleverly done. At the end of each intro, you get a fireworks package in the arena, as you do in real life. You get Michael Cole building up to all the matches that are happening. And yeah, like they've really gone to town on trying to make it mimic WWE TV. Some of the Cole stuff does get repetitive. He talks between each match, and
That's exactly right, though. That's what he does in real life.
that is also true. Vintage Michael Cole is, being repetitive, but at the same time, I really like what they're doing with it. And as we'll talk about a bit more later, customization is a big theme this year. The second thing I would say is that relates to Universe Mode is there's less repetition in storylines. So one of the big and justified criticisms the last 2 or 3 years has been that you basically play the same match week after week. So if you pick a feud between AJ Styles and John Cena, week 1 will be AJ Styles versus John Cena. Week 2 will be AJ Styles versus John Cena. Week 3, and so on. And then at the pay-per-view, there's no real payoff. From my experiences so far with the game, it's much more varied in that respect. So, I had a feud between Alexa Bliss and Becky Lynch, where in the first week, it was actually Bliss versus Natalia, and Becky interfered. In the second week, it was Becky versus, I think, Alicia Fox, and Bliss was at ringside, sort of waiting to interfere. And there's just a much more natural pacing to it, much less repetition, and helped by the new, something again we're going to talk about in more detail later, the new promo engine, where some weeks instead of having matches, you'll have superstars getting the ring together and do some verbal jousting.
Amazing stuff. I mean, it sounds like the framework is all there in terms of the new stuff and that sort of stuff, but obviously that wouldn't matter if the actual wrestling itself wasn't any good. So how is it?
It is very good. I really like it. I think there's an audience out there who desperately want a wrestling game to be No Mercy. I think that game, its time was great for what it was, but 2K are doing something different, and it's not going to placate the fans who clamour for No Mercy every year, but it will be loved by people who want a wrestling game with fighting elements, is how I describe it. A wrestling sim with fighting elements. It's similar to last year. If you played last year's game at all, you will feel within an hour or two completely at ease with it. There are some lovely new little features though. So one is that you get these 2 different reversal types. You can have like a normal reversal and a strong reversal. So if you manage to nail a strong reversal, if someone does a strong grapple on you and you reverse it by pressing R2, then you lose 2 segments of your reversal gauge, which is the thing down in the bottom left and bottom right hand of the corner of the screen, but you also gain a slight advantage over your opponent, or basically a buff over your opponent for a short time. So there's a real kind of risk reward element to things, and there's a real element of you having to think about what you're doing rather than just trust your reactions, and they've incrementally built that up every year, and I think it works again this year. The other thing I would say is obviously, it's best played against a human opponent, but I've had some fun playing the AI. I'm an AI player at home, WWE 2K16. I think I said on our video preview, I did 650, 700 matches playing the AI. And of course, you get used to its patterns, but at the same time, I think that it is fairly competitive. Certainly, I play on not quite the top difficulty, the next one down. And when I've been reviewing the game, I've had competitive matches, most of which I've won. And that's kind of the way you want it to be, because when you're playing a universe, you want to book matches where you know who the winner's going to be. But you can still get a good match out of the AI. when they're on top, they really can dominate you, and you've got to look for that one perfectly timed reversal or one perfectly timed sort of escape from the ring to try and swing the momentum, and that is sort of what you see on TV from wrestling. So the wrestling is similar to last year, but there's some nice new nuances in there, I would say.
So going back to something you touched on earlier, the new promo system, can you talk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's hit and miss. I love the idea. I think that for too long, wrestling games have been match. Maybe the last few years with WWE Universe mode, the odd cutscene here and there. But one of the biggest parts of WWE TV is obviously being able to talk smack to your opponent. Names like The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin would not be the hugely famous superstars they are without having had the opportunity to do that. And it's never been something properly represented in a wrestling game, or certainly not a major WWE game. So what they've done is they've introduced this engine where you can cut 6 different types of promos. You can form a tag team, you can break up a tag team, you can call out a rival, etc. And the way this works is you go to the ring and you're giving 4 like dialogue options, and you choose one, then you might get another one, or your opponent might come out there, and you have this sort of verbal back and forth where you're constantly choosing an option, they choose one, you're choosing one, they're choosing one. The issue is that the actual verbiage used, the words used, even for something like WWE where they have their fair share of toilet humour, just don't sound that much like things people would say. So I've had like Brock Lesnar complaining about being a bad smell backstage. Brock Lesnar's like a proper badass. That's not something he would say in like a WWE ring. I've had John Cena call AJ Styles a rooster and start making cuckoo noises. Like, it just doesn't mesh that well with WWE TV in terms of just the dialogue used. I think if they got a proper WWE writer or someone who at least in that realm like knows wrestling well, which is not a specific knock on the dev team, but like it just doesn't feel that the effort has gone into the vocabulary used, etc.
Is there anywhere else it falls down?
The game itself, I really like the game. I don't want to be overly negative about it. I think that there are flaws in there, but at the same time, you get enough enjoyment out of universe and customization and stuff that it's still a really great game. What I do have to say is that my career for me is a gigantic, I'm talking big show size disappointment. I really would like to play a career mode where you create yourself or an approximation of yourself, or however you want to do it, and you get that full feel of being a WWE newcomer. Last year it did it pretty well. This year again does it pretty well, but only pretty well. And there's one thing that I just cannot get my head around, and that is when you start the mode, you play a few matches in NXT under the tutelage of Jason Albert, who some of you will know as Lord Tensai and various other incarnations. And then you advance to the main roster, and for about 5 hours, and it can take longer than this if you fall down the rankings, you're partnered by a tag team, a fictional tag team partner called Lance Zander. So you have matches with him. Sometimes, he'll tag in and then you can't get him to tag back out again, so you're just stood on the apron like a lemming. Other times you'll hit a finisher, you think you have got the match won, and someone comes in to break it up, and he never, ever, ever comes in to stop the other guy breaking the pin up. And then there's just a weird rankings thing where with him, I had a situation where we beat clean the Wyatt family, who were above us in the rankings 2 weeks in a row, and then suddenly I looked at the rankings and we dropped from 5th to 6th. Like it just stuff like that just makes no sense to me. And
that's my career mode, right?
That's my career mode, and like I think there's some great stuff in there. You get to work further down the line in the mode. You get to work with Paul Heyman. There's a thing called the Paul Heyman Challenge, which is like really good and funny, and it's as a man who's met him in real life, and there's another video on our channel where you can see that, like, his put downs are legendary. It's fun to be able to have some of them aimed at you in game, but I think a lot of people will give up on it before that. And
so to sort of sum up then, like as a whole package, I think I get the impression you're pretty satisfied with it. What stuff stands out to you as a wrestling fan as being particularly good?
I don't think I've even mentioned the stuff I think is best of all, and that is the fan service element and the customization, and there's a huge audience for this, and with something like community creations where you can share everything you make, kind of that just brings unlimited shelf life to the game, really. And yeah, I think that like they've just gone to town. There's so many things that I could talk for another 5 minutes, but I don't want to bore the pants off of people listening, and also I don't want to spoil the surprises, but there is so much customization and fan service gone into this game, and I think that like you factor that into universe mode, and that's the reason I can't be too hard on it, because I don't think anyone will ever need to play my career when you put those elements together. Perfect. So if you can give it a score? For me, 4 stars. I think that it's on the cusp of something bigger, but I think those like flaws that we mentioned just hold it back slightly, but I think there's a bright future in the offing.
Fantastic. So there you have it, 4 stars. It feels like an event game again for the first time in quite a few years. Don't forget to read the full review on site. We'll put the link in the description. But until then, keep it Games Radar for more news, previews, reviews, and features.